I'm an engineer, and I finished engineering school over a decade ago. Feeling old just saying it, but that's how long it's been. And in my journey, I've learned a lot about life. I see life in a different way because I'm an engineer, but I also see performance cars in a different way because I'm an engineer. And I want to break something down for you. The most critical element, guys, is that people think engineering is about innovation or ideation or about creating something new. And yes, to all of those things. But engineering, in my view, is first and foremost about compromise. You learn it over and over again in engineering school. And that's simply what engineering is. It is finding a balance. See, we all love cars and we all love performance cars. And if I was to ask you right now what sort of performance car you'd like, well, if you really thought about it, you would want something that gives you the most performance and the highest quality at the lowest price. Effectively, if you could have it, you'd want it for free, wouldn't you? That's not how engineering works. Everything has a compromise. If you want your car to be really high quality, well, it's going to cost a lot. Everything is a compromise, and it applies to performance cars more than anything else, because for performance cars, you are really trying to push the envelope of innovation. Look at it this way. I've got my Toyota GR Yaris behind me, and we all love BMWs, Audis, and Mercedes. In fact, the car I had before this was a BMW. But we can all admit that BMWs, Audis, and Mercedes, and I would say BMW first and foremost, have pretty poor cooling systems, right? There's often leaks, and the gaskets leak, the seals leak. Why is that? Why they're all made out of plastic? Well, the thing is, guys, that Japanese cars like these, they have pretty basic cooling systems. They're made out of metal, and they can't handle that much performance on track. And BMWs and AMGs and M's, RSs, they handle really well on track in terms of cooling and performance. But the price you pay is that you have to get plastic parts. That's just the compromise that you make. And the other thing I learned about performance cars through being an engineer is that complexity is the enemy of reliability. You're looking at my Toyota GR Yaris engine right now. What is the basic form of transportation if you really break it down? Well, guys, it's walking, and that is one of the slowest forms of transportation. What is the next one? Well, it's riding a bike. All of a sudden, you have more performance, you can go faster, but you have made things a little bit complicated, haven't you? You have made things a little bit more unreliable. And what's the next step? Well, it's riding a motorized bike, and so on and so forth, until you get to something like a Bugatti Chiron. By the time you get there, you have made things more complex and hence less reliable. And this again is where cars like BMW, Audi, and Mercedes, I feel as if they are looked down on by a lot of enthusiasts for the wrong reasons. These cars are pushing the envelope of performance. My Toyota GR Yaris over here, this is a 3-cylinder turbo engine, the G16E GTS. It's a brilliant motor. I'm not afraid to admit it, guys, that BMW, Audi, and Mercedes are going to outgun these things, especially if you've got the M's, RS, and AMG models. They're going to outgun the GR Yaris, guys, but they are going to be infinitely more complicated. So you have to understand the choice you're making when you go out into the market. Don't be foolish. Don't think that a BMW, Audi, or Mercedes is a very pinnacle. And in the opposite way, don't think that a Toyota or Honda is a very pinnacle. Each of these cars have their compromises, their levels of complexity, and hence their levels of reliability. Now, the third thing that I learned is that serviceability matters. I'm going to say it again for you guys. Serviceability matters. Now, a lot of people understand that BMWs, Audis, and Mercedes are more expensive to service than Toyotas. And people understand that when they say the parts cost more and the labors cost more, right? The labor is more expensive. But one thing people don't understand about labor is that it's made up of two components. One is the labor rate, what the mechanic charges you per hour. See, guys, when you take your Toyota, and even when you take a GR to a workshop, the mechanic is going to charge you labor rates for Toyotas, right? It's going to be something, say, for example, $100 an hour. When you take your BMW, Audi, or Mercedes to the workshop, guys, they're probably going to charge you, say, $150. All of a sudden, it's 50% more that you're being charged. Now, not only that, they're going to charge you that higher rate, but then it's going to take them more time to work on your car as well. So it's a double whammy. In fact, it's a triple whammy, because parts are more expensive, labor charge rates are more expensive, and then the number of hours you get charged is more. And hence, the serviceability, it's very difficult. It costs a lot of money. That is something that people don't understand. With cars like Toyotas, guys, these cars are easy to service. See, guys, I had to get my water pump changed recently, and my water pump sits just right there. it's a metal component. And the cost of a Toyota water pump is very low. And then the labor rates are low. And then the amount of time it takes to swap out a water pump on a Toyota is very low. And that's the difference. If you do the same thing on, say, a Volkswagen or an Audi product, and that water pump is made out of plastic versus metal over here, the part costs more, the labor rates are higher, and it takes a long time, despite the water pump being one of the most common failure points on a Volkswagen Group product. Audis and VWs, all of their engines have water pump issues. Some of them don't last over 40,000 kilometers. And that's the difference in serviceability. Japanese cars, Japanese performance cars, even if they're GRs or Type Rs or whatever the case is, they have a level of serviceability built in where regular mechanics can service these cars at lower rates. And make no mistake, a lot of the German manufacturers, they're realizing this now, where Mercedes has actually come out with a plan where they're going to make more modularized components. They've said they're going to reduce the adhesives and replace a lot of the adhesives with mechanical fastening, like clips and screws. And that's going to help Mercedes a lot because take headlights, for example. These days, German car headlights are so expensive that if you crack a headlight or a tail light, it totals a car, believe it or not, guys, because there's so many parts that are just integrated and they can't be separated. And even the German car manufacturers realize that this is getting a bit too far. And hence Mercedes actually has come out with a plan where they're going to modularize a lot of the items on their cars. And now the very last thing I learned about performance cars as an engineer, a lot of the performance car makers, and especially the German car makers, BMW, Audi, and Mercedes, they will tout stuff like lifetime fluids or sealed for life. And as an engineer, I understand that nothing is engineered to last forever. BMW have said that their transmission oils last forever, but that's incorrect. The ZF transmission they use, ZF themselves say the transmission oil needs to be replaced periodically. Things certainly aren't sealed for life. Nothing is done for life. See, guys, in engineering, in any form of engineering, you have a design life. It is a life cycle that you're designing to. You don't ever, as an engineer, design something to last to the end of the world, to the natural life of the sun. Everything has a design life. Nothing is sealed for life. And this is all marketing. And if you want to maintain your performance car properly, you're going to have to reduce a lot of the intervals, especially as your performance car gets older and older. This goes for German cars as much as it goes for Toyotas, but certainly for German cars, because of the plastic usage, you're going to have to do that maintenance and replacement a lot more often. A lot of people think that performance cars can handle a lot of neglect, but that is not the case. As an engineer, I understand, and something you need to understand, is that yes, performance cars are built tougher. Things like engine components, they use different rod bearings, they use different oiling systems, they use different cooling systems, better brakes, better suspension components, yes to all of that. But performance cars are not built perfect. They have their limits. True performance car driving is about taking care of your cars. I would like to relate it to Formula One. I love F1 and I'm very excited for the season ahead because Aston Martin looks good. And Fernando Alonso, I'd love for him to get another title. And one of the things you know about Formula One, if you watch it, is that the drivers are constantly managing their race cars. From the tires, the brakes, to the fuel, to the engine load, everything. They're not driving these cars on the limit. In fact, a lot of the drivers will contact their team and say, hey, can I just push my car more? I'm getting so frustrated. And their team will say, look, we've got a race to win. That's not how you win a race. That's how you have to drive performance cars. You have to understand and have some sympathy towards them. You have to warm them up properly. You can't be driving them at redline all the time, right? As I said, design life. These cars are not designed to be driven at redline for 200,000 kilometers. Cars have different design parameters. An average car's engine may be designed to last, 200,000 kilometers, for example, at light loads at 3,000 RPM driving on the highway. If you start tracking that car, that design element changes. And now the car is not going to last as long. So you have to understand this. So I hope that helps, guys. I'll catch you next time.